excited to be joined by Frank Velasquez, the sports performance director with Allegheny Health Network. Welcome, Frank.
Morning, Ann. Great to be here. Thank you very much.
You know what high performance is. You work with NBL All Stars, you've worked with Olympians, and you've built a high performance team right where you are at Allegheny Health Network. So, what's the secret sauce for building a high performance team?
Ooh, building a high performance team, the practitioners, and you got to find the ones that have the passion for it. They're not in it for the paycheck. Of course, we pay them to do what they do, but they're first there, last to leave mentality. I call them clock punchers. I try to avoid the clock punch mentality where if I start at 8 and I end at 4, that's when I'll be there. But if we need to get somebody in, if we have a high priority client coming, a patient coming from our physician, and we can only get them in at 7. I want that practitioner that's going to say, okay, I'll see you at 7, an hour before my shift starts, or I'll stay after. If the floor is busy and we need to squeeze someone in, those are the people I'm looking for when it comes to my team. Of course, you have to have the education and the credentials after your names. That's always nice having the alphabet after your names, but it comes down to the person inside, the character and integrity and the personality. With AHN, we're blessed with beautiful facilities, $500,000 million weight rooms, and I have the methodology. But if we don't have the people to connect and engage with our patients and clients, they're going to go somewhere else. So it's finding that person that will be part of the team and also engage with our patients and clients.
I love that, right? You avoid the clock punchers, right? So, what was your journey to become the director of sports performance at AHN? What was your journey like?
Well, I graduated from the University of Michigan in '93, and I, as a child, always wanted to get to the major leagues as a baseball player. And I think that was the majority of us back in the '70s growing up. And baseball, I loved it. I couldn't get enough of it. And I liked all sports. I played all the other sports. But I went to Michigan and I graduated with a degree in kinesiology. And I tried to play baseball there, didn't make the cut. I went into sports medicine. I was a student athletic trainer, which set me up to take the NATA exam after I graduated from college. And so I did that, passed it, and then I went to work in physical therapy, outpatient physical therapy in the state of Michigan. Back in the late '80s, early '90s, clinics could bill for my services. So it's just like a physical therapist. So if you were the physical therapist and you saw the patient, you would see them and then say, okay, Frank, as the athletic trainer, I'm going to pass Joe on to you and you're going to do his rehabilitation and I'll co-sign your notes and we'll submit for payment. And that was perfectly legal. So I got 3 years of experience doing that, working with physical therapists as an athletic trainer, just learning a ton. So during those 3 years, I was trying to get into pro ball as an athletic trainer. So after 3 years of sending 2 letters, not emails, but 2 physical letters out to every team, so there's 30 teams. Finally, after the third year, I got 3 job opportunities, and I took the one that started me off at the highest level of minor league baseball, and that was with the Texas Rangers. That was 1996. So I spent the next 4 years as an athletic trainer in minor league baseball. During that time, strength training in baseball was becoming more popular. Back then, if strength training always didn't equate to better performance. In fact, it led to DL days, disabled list days. So it was becoming more specialized and accepted amongst the MLB ranks. So I went and got my strength certification while I was a minor league athletic trainer and ended up becoming the strength coordinator for the Texas Rangers after 4 years of being a minor league athletic trainer. And that was unique in that I wasn't with one team anymore. I oversaw 8 teams. So I would travel from the major leagues to rookie ball to our Latin American academies, and I'd spend 5 or 6 days in each location, sprinkle in some days off where I was home, and I was able to see the spectrum of professional baseball, which was cool, but I wasn't part of anything. I
Yeah.
wasn't part of a team anymore. So I did that for 3 years. So that was my 7th year with the Rangers. And then I got the job with the Pittsburgh Pirates. And I spent 9 years. I was back with one team again. I spent
Nice.
9 years as their major league strength coach and loved every minute of it. Again, I achieved personally my dream of getting to the big leagues. So one thing about pro sports is you get hired to get fired. Usually at the elite levels, that's kind of how it happens. Very few people walk away on their own terms, whether you're a player or a staff member or a coach or a manager. So I was let go after the 2011 season, and I was at a crossroads. It was my 16th year in pro ball. I was married. I had a 7-year-old son, and I had 3 opportunities to interview with other teams that had done the same thing and opened up their major league job. And my wife and I talked about it. I prayed about it, and I came up to the decision. And she helped. She says, listen, we'll support you. Kate and I will support you with whatever you want, but we'd like to stay here in Pittsburgh. And my opportunities were in Boston, Miami, San Francisco, and we just really liked Pittsburgh. It was a good place to raise a family. We were kind of in between my parents and family and her parents and family, like geographically. So I opted to stay out, opened up my own facility, sports performance, where we had a physical therapist, a strength coach, a massage therapist, and a front desk person. And I ran that for 5 years, and built it to 2 facilities with about 15 practitioners. And then AHN came calling and said, hey, we would like you to do this for us. We don't have what you do. So they bought me out of my business. And 10 years, I just had my 10th anniversary with
Oh, wow.
AHN.
That's a huge compliment, right? You're running your own gig and a network like AHN comes to you and says, hey, we want you to do this. So 10 years ago, you started from scratch. Today you got 5 facilities. So what was the key in having that growth happen?
The support from AHN, and there were some things already in place. We had athletic trainers in the high schools, we had orthopedic surgeons, we had primary care sports practitioners, so that a lot of the team was in place. They just needed my piece of it. And so that really helped to springboard things. And then hiring the right people. Hiring the right people with the credentials and also the personality of what I was looking for working in a professional type facility. The get there early, stay late mentality, and the ability to engage, with the patients and the clients that were coming through the door. Our people, and they don't come to us. I mean, we have beautiful facilities, our resources are great, and our methodology is sound. It's, everything's evidence based, but it's the people they come back for, the camaraderie from client to client or client to strength coach. That's their drive. That's really what they are attracted to.
Nice. It sounds like you have a lot to be proud of. So I have a question for you. For sure, you've helped hundreds, if not thousands, of athletes recover and rise again, from physical setbacks. Is there a comeback story that really stuck with you? Like an
Ooh.
athlete that's really come back and you're like, bam.
Oh, there's a couple of them. A couple of, I mean, from a anatomical standpoint, shoulders that were ripped up or knees that were ripped up, every ligament and tendon. And it was more than your traditional ACL or your traditional rotator cuff tear. And these people were already playing at a pretty high level, and they were able to. And sometimes it was a repeat. It was a repeat injury. So yeah, a couple of them that stick out and were just cool to see make it back. It was a feather in our cap, but of course we always say we provide the direction, the guide rails and the direction that they don't do
Yeah.
too much too fast, and but it's the athlete or the client that does the work.
Devastating injury is such an emotional impact, right? So to have the
Absolutely.
right people take that athlete through the recovery journey is so important.
That's right.
The arena of youth sports has changed. So how important is strength training in the picture? If you were advising a really motivated 16-year-old athlete today, like what are the pieces that matter?
Of course, your skill sport, the skill, whatever. At 16, you're in high school. So, gosh, if you're not strength training, you're way behind. Strength training, it's a must in all sports. It's a must to not only, enhance performance or put that athlete in a position to enhance performance by being stronger, but more to bulletproof yourself, to reduce the risk of injury. Strength's super important, but so's rest and recovery. You know,
Yeah. So talk about that because I think athletes and parents are really bought into more is better.
that's exactly right. And we say less is more.
Yeah.
We flip the words on them and we get them to understand the value of rest. You're not going to fall out of shape in 1 or 2 days a week. It doesn't mean you're doing zero. It means If they're a 16-year-old, you got school, you got friends, and you can watch video, or you can jump in the leg pumps, or get in the infrared sauna or the cryo. It's still a productive day, but physically on your body, you're not digging the hole deeper to climb out of from fatigue. So, we have to know how our body recovers. It's not, a massage works for some, but it may not work for another. And we have to know the value of taking that day off so the next days after will be higher performing days. So those
Yeah,
are the
so
big ones.
how do you hope athletes really embrace that? I find resistance in that space.
Sure, a lot of it's trial and error. A lot of it's like we can tell them, but they need to experience it, and they need to come to us almost broken, unfortunately, where we do need to rebuild them. Not to the point where they're injured, but to where, man, my there's nothing coming out of my arm. I have what we call dead arm in the baseball world. Like, I'm not hurt, nothing hurts me, but it's not coming out. In today's world, everything's objective. Launch angle, bat velocity, a throwing velocity, spin rate. So they get all these numbers, and if their numbers aren't used to where they're seeing them and they're significantly lower, but nothing's the matter, I'm getting a call from a parent. And that's when I got them. Like, okay, we talked about this before, but now we're seeing it in your performance because tell me your schedule, Ann, for the last 3 weeks. And they go over it with me. Okay, tell me your eating habits, your sleeping habits, and how well you're hydrating, your wellness. We go over it just like a food log, activity log, and then say, okay, where's our rest here? Where's our ability, our chance for the body to regenerate and recover from what you've asked it to do for 7 days in a row? Where is that? It's not there, Frank. It's not there, coach. Absolutely. So let's start there. That it usually takes a little bit of dip in the graph of progression. It takes that dip because we know it's not linear, right, Ann? It's like this.
Yeah, it's never linear,
No.
right?
So when I have them on a in a valley, that's when my teaching takes in, my education sinks in with them. That's what it usually takes.
You holistically look at the total athlete and that you stress that rest and recovery. You made a comment earlier when I said, hey, what if I'm a 16-year-old? Your comment was, if they haven't started strength training by that age, they're behind. What's the right age for an athlete to start strength training?
With my experience now, I'm 14 years out of professional sports. So 14 years in this arena of youth sports, travel, or, everything with the kids. I'd say middle school. And there's no scientific research on that. It's just my practical experience. Sometimes we'll take that grade schooler that's a little more physically mature, that fifth grader that's just bigger and stronger, and they maybe have some facial hair. We can get them started. But that sixth, seventh, eighth grade in is where we like to start them, introduce them to the weight room. And they may have gone to the Y with their parents and done some stuff in the
Yeah.
basement, but nothing really organized and really evidence based for what we do middle school. So we're not breaking many bad habits, and we're prepping them for high school, which at the level they're going to be required to lift and strength train. So it's just one box that they have checked, like, oh, I know how to do an RDL and I know how to do a goblet squat and all the exercises. So middle school is the age, where we like to get them in our facilities.
That's what we want. What's typically happen? Are you getting kids that young or are they generally coming in a little bit older?
Older, it takes a while for most of the parents to realize that some level of strength training is going to be beneficial for their son or daughter. If they're going to be playing a schedule, quite honestly, that has the volume of an elite athlete schedule, then they need to invest in the other parts of that. And what I'm finding, these young bodies, they're just not, obviously they're not strong enough to withstand the volume of swings and kicks and runs and jumps, and it's year round. Early specialization is here, and they're at 10, 11, 12 years old. They're playing one sport 11, 12 months a year, and their body's just not physically ready to handle it, nor is their mind mentally ready to handle the pressures that come with that.
What's interesting when you use the word volume. A couple years ago, I won't say the sport, but I had an athlete playing two travel teams, same sport, same season, and it's spring summer, and the parent is like, the athlete's a little bit off. I'm like, how many games? 10 games this weekend in 90-degree heat, and
Right.
we're not talking baseball, right? We're talking like a sprint sport, right?
Yeah.
So we forget that these kids they're kids.
Kids. They're kids. And we're setting them up to fail. I mean, I could have the most of the Diego Maradonas and the Derek Jeters and the Tom Brady's. And if you put them in 10 games in 2 days in 90-degree
Too
heat,
much.
they're going to Hall of Fame athletes. They're going to will.
Yeah, so what's your opinion? Specialization or diversification?
I think you play as many as you can, as long as you can. And at some point, without a doubt, you're going to be asked to spend a little more time. If you really take into that sport and your heart's in it and it's your decision, then yeah, go ahead and start, getting rid of some of those other sports. I think they've served their purpose. We're talking 10th, 11th grade in high school, especially at these larger schools, it's hard to make more than one team. But some of the smaller schools, they don't have as many athletes, and they may need you for all 3 seasons. So every case is different, but I'm definitely not a fan of the early specialization. If these kids, they're not shaving yet or driving yet, I want them playing different sports in different seasons, not only for the diversification but also to give that primary sport a rest. Put it on the back burner. Even if you're not playing a sport, go be a 15-year-old. Go on dates and go hang out with your buddies and just be. We don't have enough of that.
So if a high school coach or like a club director, wants their athletes to elevate their performance, what's one thing they should be doing differently today?
At the high school level,
Yep.
they need to be strength training.
Yeah. So
That
here's a question. Pro or con in-season strength training?
pro. When I first got out of pro sports, I was used to that coming from U of M football and the sports I worked with at University of Michigan back in the day, and then all my years in pro sports, we strength trained during the year. And I got out, and I was, I hit the ground running. I had because of my background, a ton of baseball, softball, and they would spend lots of money and time with me in our facilities. And then when the season started, they disappeared. This is not the same, and then they would come back, usually hurt. So it took time. That's quite honest. That's part of the reason why we started our recovery modalities, our recovery services. Like, listen, don't come here to strength train. Come here to get in the pumps. Come here to get in the cryo and the saunas. Come here to get a bike flush and some foam rolling to help you recover and rebound faster throughout the season. But I'll tell you, over the past 13, 14 years, that has gotten better. Coaches and athletes are learning how to strength train, whether it be my place or a home gym or the high school gym, where we can take those hour and a half workouts and we pair them into 20-minute workouts where we're getting the necessities done and to do during the season, because again, it helps reduce the risk, and it also keeps our guys and gals stronger when we get to the money rounds, the PIAs, championships, those teams that integrate the strength and the recovery piece along with their season. During their season, they find themselves in a better position with less injuries and still more left in the tank to get us to that championship.
Yeah. So why do you think a lot of teams do not do that?
Just think the lack of respect for rest and recovery, or the lack of taking that time off the field or off the court to spend in the weight room. A lot of times at the high school level, they don't have dedicated strength coaches. So it's the coaches that are doing that, and they'd rather be on the field or studying film or doing those things. I just think it's a lack of respect for what those entities or what those parts of the puzzle do for the scope of their athletes, the team, and their season.
I think we're like on a journey. The teams that really get it see the integrated approach, the rest recovery, the nutrition, the mental strength, the physical strength, the skill development, right? It's that integrated process. You bring that to the table. So you talk a little bit about the mental strength resources that you have available integrated in your practice.
With some of the things we build into our workouts, we put riddles on the board and in our facilities. We have puzzles that the kids, either before or after their session, they'll work on the puzzles for a little bit. And then just some of the physical nature of our workouts are anaerobic, where we're pushing them past their limits, for a short part of time during the workout. These are the things that help build mental resilience and problem solving with the puzzles and the riddles and things like that a lot of people just don't know are beneficial, in regards to the holistic approach to the athlete. And if someone's wanting more of what It's not our level of expertise. We all know a little bit about it as strength coaches. Like same with nutrition. Like we can guide you, but if you're asking for calorie counting and meal planning and something deeper, then we refer to people like yourself, the professionals. Like, hey, you're wanting more that we can offer during our session. So here's a couple people to call to get better coaching or more a higher level of coaching in those areas.
You have your expertise, and then you'll have resources that you can refer athletes to. So what's the next? What's ahead in your space? I asked you because I'm actually good friends. Well, I'm friends with the strength and conditioning coach for UConn women's basketball. They use a lot of devices to track performance. How do you see that growing?
The wearables, as we talked about earlier, I mean, we're in a data analytics driven society now, the objective numbers. And as a traditional coach, from a sport coach to a strength coach and wellness, I mean, that's what I use my eyes and ears for. Those numbers validate that. Even when
Yeah,
at my last years with the Pirates, I would take objective numbers before we had StatCast satellites timing the guys from home to first. I was doing it in the dugouts with stopwatches as close as I could, and then I'd go back to video after and I'd confirm it. And I would keep sprint numbers, like not if you just hit a lazy ground ball and you were kind of half-assing it to first base. I mean, I took
yeah,
ball sprints that you were trying to beat out that hit, that ground ball to the hole and you were sniffing a single. Those are the sprints I would take, and I would take them over the course of a year, and I would identify areas where the numbers were down. The highest number was down, the average number was down, and I would go, to our athlete and I'd say, "Hey, everything okay? You feeling okay?" "Yeah, my legs are a little, they're a little tired." So I'd give that information to our manager. And back in the day, nowadays purposeful rest days are built into baseball and basketball. But back then, it was a badge to play 162. So the wearables, I think they work in the collegiate level, minor league, pro sports. At the big league level and pro sports, they don't, because the athletes are unionized and they don't want that information to be used against them in contractual talks or in the future. So it has to be voluntary. Now you'll get a couple that want that information and they work with the performance team to get that. In the minor leagues, you can put them under your thumb a little more and have more of the teams do it. College, of course. I think it has its place, and it's just information, but what are we doing
right.
with the information? We have to use it to better taper, cater what's being done in the weight room, or we have to have coaches that listen to us and say, hey, this is where the team is right now. We need to have a lower volume couple of days before we spike up into our next series of games. Everyone has to be on the same page for something that those wearables to work and the information it gives you.
Yeah, you said something really important there, right? We all have to be on the same page. Like the data
Yeah.
is saying we need to reduce the load. And, if I'm an old school coach and that's not how I grew up, that is all foreign to me. So it's an evolving practice. It's interesting.
It is, and it's technology. Technology is good in a lot of ways, whether it be medical technology or communicative technology. And now it's in athletics. And again, objective numbers are great, but if you need to combine that with our traditional methods, and it's hard to measure. It's hard to measure what's inside of us. The fight in the dog. You can't put the number on that, and you have to take that into consideration when you're talking about sitting or playing an athlete.
Sometimes the fight in the dog is stupid, right? I'll use myself as an example. I ignored back pain the whole summer before my senior collegiate season. And the reality was I had bulging disc and sciatica. And so, I was done. I ignored it. It plateaued. And when I went and had my physical, I was like, you're done, and it's different today, but sometimes that fight in that dog can be stubborn, and I was in that no pain, no gain mentality, and more is more rather than, listen to my body.
Let me ask you, how old were you and how far along were you in your athletic career when you went through that?
Yeah. So my senior season, so it would have been like 21, 22.
High school, college. Okay. So you were an
Yeah.
adult, you know. It
But we're
was
so driven because my collegiate career was a little bit disappointing. And my junior year was okay. I think, and I was like, I've been playing ball since 5th grade. This is my
Right.
final season to go crush it. So all summer long, I used the term I ate the basketball. And I woke up, I couldn't touch my knees. I was that stiff and I just kept going. And the day of my physical, I ran 6 miles. And then we just did a straight leg test, which I failed. I was an adult, which is, I today I listen to my brain, not my heart. And I make smarter decisions. But as an athlete, I was just so driven. I made stupid decisions.
And that's, I think, where you need a good performance team around you because we want the fight and the dog, but there's a difference between being tough and being stupid. And it's a trainer or a coach or a strength coach's job to help that athlete identify that. Like, listen, we can take 3 days off, or we're going to have to take 3 months off. This is what
Right.
we're looking at, and that's how we try to paint that picture. And I asked how old you were because I get this same conversation with a 12-year-old. And that's where I get the parents. I look at the parents, I'm like, well,
Yeah.
Ann
No.
wanted to play. I'm like, well,
No.
Ann's 12.
Yeah.
And they're not equipped to make those decisions. That's what I always tell these people. No one's going to protect your child more than you will as a parent. You can have the best coaches in the world and they're going to want to win in the heat of the moment. So it's the parent that's going to have to protect the child and say, listen, Ann's not playing today. We're going on a
Yeah.
family vacation.
We have to remember the big game, the long game, right? Your performance at 12 matters nothing,
Mm-mm.
right? Right. And jeopardizing health, injury, and long term is never worth it.
Big picture,
Never
you
worth
got to
it.
look through those glasses.
So I love that you are, your coach hands along the journey because that's so important. All right. So how can people find you? And you know what? If I'm a parent of an athlete and I want to get them started in strength training, what am I looking for? How do I know I've found the right resource?
Great question. And that's important because I think everyone that's lifted a weight in their life kind of deems themselves an expert at lifting weights.
Right.
The
And let me say it in my space if they've read one book.
from the parent that has the great intentions for their child to the personal trainer at the local YMCA or LA Fitness to performance places. So if I'm directing a family to what to look for, these are the things. You want to I would like to make sure that your practitioner has a 4-year degree in an exercise related science, exercise science, athletic training, physical education, and then that they have a certification, whether that be the CSCS or the ASCM, the CPT. There's different certifications that are out there and that are kind of gold standard level for us that you have to have a 4-year degree even to take the test. And the test is not easy. So those are the things I'm looking for. And then experience in strength training your type of animal. If I'm a baseball player and the guy that's in town and has a great reputation, but only trains football players, chances are he's going to train me like a football player. So I want to find that specialization. And where we are with society and the evolution of youth sports, you're finding more of those specializations of, okay, this is a great track and field coach. This is a great soccer coach, baseball, softball, overhead athlete coach, hockey, football. So you just need to do your homework and make sure they have the degree, some certification, and then some experience coaching, athletes in your sport.
Talk about the pro and the con. I have a daughter that has worked with strength and conditioning folks and then has said, no, I'll do it on my own. So talk about the pro of working under someone's guidance versus like, hey, I just do it on my
One, you're paying for it more times than not, so you have some skin in the game. It does help you stay more consistent, and we find this more, to be honest with you, with our Gen Pop clients, our active adults. We have lots of Gen Pops that were ex athletes, and they gravitate to our facilities once they're like, "Oh, this isn't just for high school and college and pro athletes." No, I mean we train geriatrics, and anyone that wants to get stronger is invited to our facility. But with our Gen Pops, it's like, well, I've tried it. I've come in and out of my workouts over the years trying to do it on my own. I find that if I'm with you guys, someone's waiting for me. So I'm accountable that I have somebody waiting for me. I'm paying for it. And it helps keep me consistent. Consistency is key. For us, consistency trumps intensity. We want a little bit more times than a lot of bit a couple times. So And I think that bleeds into the youth athlete as well. Is you want to have that practitioner, that professional guiding our child or our younger athlete, um, to keep them in the safe zones, because we want it to be a safety, where if you go into a gym and you see high school kids lifting and they have weight belts on, and they have probably 100 pounds heavier than what they should have on the barbell, and their form is atrocious, you know, those are the things that you can do better if you're with a organized program that's in a professional facility with certified coaches.
You have 5 locations. Tell us where they are, and if I'm in your geography, how do I find you and learn more?
Well, we can start with it's Allegheny Health Network Sports Performance and Physical Therapy. And we have in Pittsburgh, we have three of the areas covered. We have the South, that's our Cool Springs location. So it's in Bethel Park, AHN Sports Performance Cool Springs. And you can put it in the computer and it'll pop up. We have the Wexford Plaza. So the Wexford Plaza location, that's our north. So north and south. We have our west location, which is our AHN Montour health and sports medicine facility. Our fourth is up north, Erie. That's an hour and a half from me. So I go to Erie. I had 43 trips to Erie in 2024, but now I go like once every 2 or 3 weeks now that we're up and running. So Erie is our sports performance and physical therapy up in Erie, AHN. And then my fifth location is actually run by a radiation oncologist who's also a strength coach. It's for cancer
Oh,
research. So we have a pretty robust 12-week program where we're training these people that are going through radiation or chemo. And when I say strength training, it's like we're strength training our athletes. We provided the strength coaches, we helped the rad onc built the facility, and he runs it. And then these people with cancer graduate into one of my other performance locations. So
nice.
it's a beautiful program, and we're doing talk about impactful work. Some of these men and women that have cancer are on medications probably for the rest of their lives that eat away bone mass and their muscle, and what we do is help maintain that or improve that bone density and their muscle mass by strength training them safely. So that's our fifth location. So Cool Springs, Wexford, Montour, Erie, and then the cancer one is in downtown. It's in Bellevue, PA.
I love that. Certain demographics of our communities get and often be overlooked. In my the area down in Elizabeth, there's a gentleman, Mark Mueller, who runs a business called MS Fit Effect. And he provides strength and training resources and services to people with MS and, life changing. Frank, absolutely my honor to see you catch up and highlight all the good things that you're doing in the community. Any last things you want to make sure we hit before we wrap?
No, just I think when we talk about youth sports a lot today, and we did, just keep it fun and keep it developmental, for the families out there listening. You want to, winning and losing develops. We know that. We learn. We like to say we win or we learn. We win or
Yep.
we learn. Every loss has something in it that we can take from and get better. So we don't look at them as losses. I know that's what they say on the stat sheet, but so keep it fun, keep it developmental and positive, and really take care of your commodities, which are our kids. Make sure they're getting their sleep. Put these things, don't let them in their rooms at night. Put them on the docking station, and make sure they're getting fed. And a lot of our athletes don't eat enough. They're not getting enough protein, and they depend on energy drinks for fuel. And so it's education and those wellness habits that you have to do. I don't have to go to my strength coach or have to go to my hitting lesson, but I need to eat, drink, and sleep. So let's do those things better, and start there and build that solid foundation for a durable young athlete, and give them every opportunity to let their God-given ability play out. If they peak out in varsity or get to college or even get to do this for a living as a job, help them do that by help keeping them accessible. The old term is the best ability is availability. So if I'm not available to
Oh,
my coach, then someone else is taking my reps, and that's when that'll throw off your development altogether. So we want to keep our products on the field and keep our athletes available to their coaches.
you know what? I love that. I love that you say keep it fun and that you're like, bam, keep this out of the room. When I'm working with athletes, I take them on a journey that starts with awareness. And I
Wow.
asked them, like, what helps you be your very best version of yourself and what interferes with your ability to be your very best version of yourself. And when an athlete, and I help them a little bit on this, but when an athlete recognizes, like, hey, I take my phone to bed and I start scrolling, and that 10 minutes is an hour and a half, I know that's depleting my sleep. Right. And I'm like, so what can you do about that? Right. I don't want to tell them, I want them to see it. Right. And I even share, I feel like I have a little bit of screen in me. And I, since February, put my phone in the kitchen dock and keep it out of the bedroom because I want to model what I teach. And I do
Yeah.
model what I teach. Right.
Yeah, that was my 2024 New Year's commitment was no phone in the bedroom, and I've stayed pretty consistent with it. Now, with being a director, I have a watch, and if something rings through, it'll buzz my watch. But yeah, it does help, and that's great. That's great that you help them find that answer. These kids have 100 times more distractions than we did when we were their age, so it's
Yeah.
challenging. It's
Yeah.
challenging, and we're looking at it as an adult, and, if I was 15 and trying to preach the same information, I wouldn't have been able to do it, So it takes some guidance, and it takes that athlete that's willing to be coached. A coachable athlete's fun, that they listen to cues, verbal cues, visual cues, tactical cues, and they can execute after you've coached them. Those are the ones that make it.
Frank, absolutely my honor to like catch up. You're doing good things and we need more people doing good things in this world. So great to catch up. Thank you.
This was great. I enjoyed it, and I think the work you do is impactful. It's so much more mental now than physical, and baseball's always been that way. It's such a mental game. You have to be resilient and how to handle failure, and the work you're doing is great. And there needs to be more people like you. So, anytime you want me back, I love talking shop. So thank you so much for having me.